Hi everyone, it's Heath with the Music Technology Teacher Network, www.mutechteachernet.com. And I'm very excited today to share this next video with you in the next part of the series I've done about the Novation Launchpad Mini. And I'm super excited today because it's like Santa Claus visited my lab, because if you notice behind me, I have now 32 Launchpad Minis that are here for me to use with my students. So I'm super excited about this. And I do want to take a minute to just step back and say, you know, the last 2 years, no doubt, has been super, super difficult. And there's been so much noise going on about how unhappy teachers are and how poorly we've been treated and how just terrible the environment is in the school. And when I say this, please understand, I am not trying to say that none of that is not true in different places. And I think it's very important for teachers to advocate for what they need in order to serve our students the way we need to serve them. And it's important for the public to support teachers. I have a daughter who is in college right now pursuing a music education degree. So this is like has personal significance for me also. So understand, again, I'm not trying to say any of that is not true, because it certainly is true. But I want to share from my point of view. Feel so fortunate and so very, very lucky, because every morning when I wake up, I look forward to coming to school and I look forward to teaching my students. And I'm very fortunate, incredibly fortunate, to work in a school system, which, by the way, is Gwinnett County Public Schools, which is about 30 miles northeast from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm incredibly fortunate to work with the school system who supports our teachers and particularly supports the fine arts, where I have access to resources to get things like these Launchpad Minis. So I am very fortunate, but I also feel like that some proof here to what I'm doing, that when teachers are supported and given the tools that we need, and you get a teacher that is in an environment they like to work with. My kids this year, we're if you looked at the population of our middle school, we are, our socioeconomics are pretty diverse. We, are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 40-50% free reduced lunch. Our ethnicities, social, cultural backgrounds are really pretty diverse. Gwinnett is one of the most diverse counties as far as cultures, ethnic backgrounds is concerned in the state of Georgia. So a pretty diverse school. We have some families that haven't had necessarily a lot of financial problems in the last 2 years, but we have a lot of families that have really struggled. So it's a real mix of students. And yes, the students have had to go through some relearning some appropriate behaviors, I guess, at school. But like everything we do, we teach. We teach music skills, and right now we're having to teach some behavior skills and how behavior at school is different than behavior, say, at home. But we're getting there, and the thing about it is I'm still very excited to teach my students every day, and I'm fortunate to have that. So with all that being said, let me get back to the Launchpad. So when I got these Launchpads, one of the things that I was really concerned about early on was, how do I manage the devices? How do I keep track of them? And how do I take advantage of some of the features of the Launchpad that I wanted to be able to share with my students? So I'm going to share my experience, because literally I just finished doing this today. So one of the things that's important, if you go through this initial setup process correctly, if you're patient and you don't immediately just take them out of the box and start passing them out to use, if you'll take a little time to get all of your devices registered correctly and to get them set up before you distribute them, you're going to save yourself a lot of time later on. And honestly, this whole process I'm going to show you today took me maybe about 40 minutes to get. I have 33 devices that I had to get set up this way. So take the time to do this. And again, it's going to save you time later, and it's going to help you take advantage of all the things that the Launchpad can do for you and your students. As I mentioned before, one of the things that's really important when you make an investment like this in this kind of equipment is how you manage these devices and track these devices. The first thing you're going to want to do is set up an account at customer.novationmusic.com. I have personal Novation Launchpad items myself, so I wanted to set up an account that's unique for these school devices. So you go in and you select on create an account and then follow the prompts to create an account that you're going to use to track all of these school equipment. Now, once you do that, the next page is going to ask you to register a new product. Do not use that link to register these products because it's going to ask you to enter the serial number for each of the devices independently, and there is a much easier and quicker way to do this. So the Launchpad uses a USB-C type connection. So I take one of these USB-C cables and plug it into one of the ports in the back of my desktop, and then I literally took a stack of the Launchpad Minis and put them here next to my computer and started by plugging the first device in at the top. Now, when you do this, if you're using Google Chrome, and I haven't checked to see how this would work in Safari or another web browser, but I suspect it would work there as well. But when you plug the USB-C cable into the Launchpad Mini, it will detect, as you can see, the Launchpad Mini, and it will give you a website to go to if you click on this. So the website it's going to take you to is this customer.focusrightgroup.com. And your account setting here is going to be the same as the one you set up for the Novation site. So once you get to this point, you're going to select on Let's Get You Started. And after you do that, the thing that's great about this is this website is going to detect the serial number for the device right away. So you don't have to type that in. All you're going to have to do is select your date of purchase and a couple other pieces of information. And on the next screen, it's going to ask how you want to use your Launchpad. So I want to use my Launchpad straight away, or I want to make my first track, or for those that have no self-control and cannot wait just a bit before getting into using it. If you're going to use Ableton Live, then you're going to want to click on Ableton Live. For me, I don't use Ableton Live with my students. I use primarily GarageBand, Soundtrap, and sometimes some Logic. So you select, I want to use Launchpad with something else. Here, if you have a specific app that you want to select, you can, Logic, FL Studio, Reason, GarageBand, or other. As I said, I use GarageBand primarily, so I'm going to select that. And whatever you select, it's going to take you to a short YouTube video that's going to show you how to set up your Launchpad for those various apps. The thing about it is, the setup for GarageBand and Soundtrap is really pretty easy. You just basically have to plug it in and it's ready to go because it's going to function as just a MIDI input device. So once you watch the video, you just select Next. That's going to take you back to a screen that wants you to confirm that your Launchpad is running. I would not suggest, particularly if you have a lot of devices like I do, to get registered that you actually go into GarageBand and check that they're working. You can if you want to, but I suspect it's probably going to be good to go. So once you click up and running, you're going to get a next steps video that you can watch, or if you click on go to my account, you will see that it's going to send you back to your Novation account that you set up earlier. And as you add these devices, it's going to keep a running tally over here of all the serial numbers that it's going to keep up with in that account that you created. So once you finish the process, you're just going to unplug that Launchpad MIDI, set that one aside, and then take your USB-C and plug it into the next Launchpad Mini. Once again, Chrome is going to detect that there's another one that you've hooked up, and then you go through that process again to get all of those devices onto your account. Now, I also want you to take notice that if you look at the top, in addition to my hardware, you have my software. And there's a lot of items here that are, a lot of it is sort of demo apps that you can try out either for a limited time or for a limited version of the software. For example, Ableton Lite is available for free. But What you're really going to want to use these devices with your students in your classroom is to click on this utility tab, and you're going to look for components. If you click on view details, it'll take you to the components page where you can either download the app as a standalone app that you can then install on your each of your desktops, or you can use the components web. The easiest thing to do is just to use the web version, because otherwise you're going to have to go and download the standalone app on each of your machines. Now, you may have a way to do that through your school technology support person, but unless there's some compelling reason to do that, I think that the web application is going to work just fine. Now, when you go to this website, components.novationmusic.com, you're now going to want to go back and retrieve those stacks of Launchpad Minis, and we're going to go through them again. And this can be a little bit tedious, but again, it's important. So when you plug your first Launchpad Mini in, you're going to see that a window is going to pop up asking you to update the firmware. It's not unusual at all when you're using different kind of devices that from time to time you're going to get software updates. So for each of these Launchpad Minis, you're going to want to update the firmware. So once you click on that, all you have to do is follow the prompts that you'll see on screen, and you'll actually see some prompts that show up on the device itself. It doesn't take very long to do, probably less than a minute to update the firmware. Now, the other thing you can do while you have the Mini hooked up is that if you have any custom modes that you want to pre-install on the devices, now's the time to do it. All you have to do from here is click on Send to Launchpad Mini, and then you'll get a window that pops up. I would select slot number 3, Overwrite Custom Mode, and with a click, it's done. Keep in mind that slots 1 and 2 are the default settings for the drums and the keys. If you want to change those, you certainly can. What I do initially is I leave the default settings for drums and keys where they are, and I just put one custom mode in to slot number 3, which is going to be the user button on the actual device. And literally click, and it's automatically done. So once that happens, all you're going to do is unplug that Launchpad Mini, put it over in another stack, take your USB-C and plug it into the next one, and you're just going to simply rinse and repeat all those steps again to update the firmware on the next one. If you have the preset custom you want to do, you upload that and you get that done. Now, that's the tedious part, is to get all of these devices registered to your account and then to get the firmware updated into the components page. Again, I had 33 devices that I had to do this with, and it is a little bit tedious, but it took me maybe 45 minutes and it was done. And once you have it set up from here on out, it's really going to be much easier and way cool to use with your students. So now that we have all of our devices registered with the serial numbers, and we've had the firmware updated, and we've got our first custom mode loaded, the hard work's out of the way. So in the next video, which is going to be a lot shorter than this one actually, I'm going to show you how you can actually implement these in the classroom and use them with your students, and how you can share some of the very cool features of the Launchpad, like its different custom layouts. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. I'll always appreciate it if you do. If you hit that subscribe button, tell your colleagues and friends about it. The more subscribers I get, the more it kind of helps me get the word out and keep this channel going. So I always appreciate that very much. And I hope you'll check out the next video, again, where we're going to talk about implementing these in the classroom. In the meantime, I wish you the very best of luck. Keep your chins up out there. You're doing wonderful work. This has been Heath with the Music Technology Teacher Network. Advocate, support, inspire, and create.